Listen closely, because what's happening right now in one narrow stretch of water could reshape the global economy faster than most people realize. This is not just another geopolitical headline. This is about the Strait of Hormuz, the most critical oil choke point in the world. And right now, it's under serious pressure. For weeks, tensions between the United States, Israel, and Iran have been escalating. Air dominance has been asserted. Military positioning has intensified. Strategic warnings have been issued. But despite all of that pressure, Iran still holds control over one of the most important trade routes on the planet, the Strait of Hormuz. This narrow passage connects the oil-rich Gulf region to global markets. It is the gateway through which energy flows from the Middle East to the rest of the world. Under normal circumstances, nearly 25% of the world's seaborne oil passes through this single route. That's 1 out of every 4 barrels transported by sea. Now imagine what happens when that flow is disrupted. Before the current tensions escalated, around 20 million barrels of oil were moving through the Strait of Hormuz every single day. Every day. But now, that number has dropped dramatically. We're looking at just around 3.5 million barrels per day. That's not a slowdown. That's a massive shock to global supply chains. And it doesn't stop there. The number of vessels passing through the strait has also collapsed. From roughly 130 to 140 ships per day, we're now seeing just 5 to 6 vessels making the journey. Think about that contrast. From over 100 ships to barely a handful. This is not normal. This is a warning signal. Now, officially, Iran says the strait is still open. Their foreign minister has stated that transit is allowed. Ships can pass. Trade can continue. But in reality, the situation on the ground tells a very different story. Because even if a route is technically open, it doesn't mean it's safe. Shipping companies are not taking the risk. Insurance firms are backing away, and the few vessels that are still moving are operating under extreme caution. Insurance premiums alone have skyrocketed. We're talking about costs increasing up to 25 times higher than normal. That's not sustainable for global trade. And when shipping becomes too expensive or too dangerous, companies simply stop moving goods, which is exactly what we are seeing right now. But why is this happening? Because the region has become increasingly volatile. In the past few weeks, at least 20 vessels have been attacked in or around the Strait of Hormuz. 20. That's enough to create panic across the entire shipping industry. And once fear enters the system, everything slows down. Now, let's zoom out and look at the global impact. Because this is not just about the Middle East. This is about the entire world. Asia, in particular, is heavily dependent on this route. Around 80% of oil imports for major Asian economies pass through the Strait of Hormuz. China relies on it for nearly 27% of its oil supply. India depends on it for over 10%. South Korea and Japan are also deeply connected to this route. Japan alone gets about 95% of its crude oil through this strait. 95%. So if Hormuz is disrupted, even partially, the ripple effects will be massive. Fuel prices could spike, supply chains could tighten, economic pressure could increase across multiple regions at once, and this is where geopolitics becomes economics. Because control over energy routes is not just about power, it's about influence. Now, let's bring in the United States. Donald Trump has issued a clear warning. Earlier, he had delayed potential military strikes on Iran's energy infrastructure. But that delay came with conditions. If the Strait of Hormuz remains disrupted, those strikes could still happen. At the same time, there is a temporary pause, a window of around 5 days where diplomacy is being given a chance. Talks, negotiations, back-channel discussions.
all aimed at preventing a larger escalation. But here's the problem. Diplomacy takes time, and markets react instantly. Every hour of uncertainty increases pressure. Now, Iran has also made its position very clear. They've stated that freedom of navigation cannot exist without freedom of trade. In other words, if their economic interests are threatened, they're willing to respond. And one of their biggest leverage points is Hormuz, because they know exactly how critical it is to the world. This is not just a route, it's a pressure valve, a strategic choke point. And right now, it's being used as both. Meanwhile, the United States is exploring options. One of those options is providing naval escorts to commercial vessels. The idea is simple: protect ships as they pass through the strait, reduce risk, restore confidence.
But so far, there has been no official confirmation, which means uncertainty continues to dominate the situation, and uncertainty in geopolitics often leads to escalation. Now let's take a closer look at what this means for global markets. When oil supply is threatened, prices react. Even the fear of disruption can push prices higher, and when prices rise, everything else follows. Transportation costs go up, manufacturing costs increase, inflation pressures build, and ultimately, consumers around the world feel the impact. This is why the Strait of Hormuz is often called the world's most important energy corridor. Because when it's stable, the world functions smoothly. But when it's under threat, everything becomes unpredictable. So, where do we go from here? Right now, we are in a waiting phase, waiting for diplomatic outcomes, waiting for military decisions, waiting for clarity. The next few days are critical. If tensions ease, we could see a gradual return to normal operations. Ships may resume their routes, insurance costs may stabilize, and global markets may calm down. But if tensions escalate, the consequences could be far more serious. We could see further disruptions, more attacks, more restrictions, and potentially direct military confrontation. And that would take this situation to an entirely different level. Because once that line is crossed, it's no longer just about trade routes. It becomes a full-scale geopolitical crisis. And that's why the world is watching so closely. Because what happens in this narrow stretch of water affects billions of people. From fuel prices in the United States, to manufacturing costs in Asia, to economic stability in Europe, everything is connected. And right now, that connection is under stress. So the real question is not just what is happening. The real question is, what happens next? Will diplomacy succeed? Will tensions ease? Or are we standing at the edge of a much larger conflict? Because one thing is certain. What happens in the Strait of Hormuz will not stay there. It will shape the global economy, influence political decisions, and impact everyday lives across the world. And right now, the clock is ticking. And as this situation continues to unfold, one thing is becoming very clear. The Strait of Hormuz is no longer just a trade route. It's a global pressure point. Every decision made in the coming days could impact oil prices, global markets, and the stability of entire regions. Right now, the world is watching. Governments are calculating, and markets are reacting. But the real question still remains. Is this a temporary disruption, or the beginning of something much bigger? We'll be tracking every development, every update, and every shift in this story as it happens. Because in today's world, geopolitics doesn't stay on the map. It affects your fuel prices, your economy,
and your future. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to stay informed. Subscribe for more deep, clear, and real analysis on global events that actually matter. And until next time, stay aware, stay